My latest German Word of the Week video is dedicated to the fear of a war on our doorsteps. But because, I like to be optimistic about these things, I finished up by saying, we will survive. That promised a few of you to comment and point out that actually a lot of people are not going to survive this, which is completely true, but also not really the point. And oh dear, a couple of my friends here. Hello. Yes, hello. Oh. So, as I was saying, a few of you commented to point out that yes, well, that's all very well, but a lot of people are not going to survive this, which is absolutely true, but also not the point that I was trying to make. So, to explain myself a bit further, I thought I'd show you a couple of things. We better get a move on, because we've got a bus to catch. In this part of Europe, and in some other parts of the world, we have been very fortunate. We've had decades of peace and prosperity. But things haven't always been this way, and in fact, most of history has been very tough. The area I live in is quite wealthy now, but 150 years ago it was desperately poor. Things didn't look up until the railway came, allowing trade to flourish. These days it's a passenger railway, taking commuters to their well-paid jobs in the city and children to school. It's hard to imagine now, but it's not all that long ago that people had to walk for hours every morning to sell brushes at market and walk for hours back home in the evening. I am here in the municipality of Kahl am Main, the most northwesterly municipality in the state of Bavaria, and also the municipality with the lowest elevation in the entire state. It doesn't really have very much more going for it. It's pretty mundane, to be honest. But, like most other places, it has had its share of suffering in the past. The evidence, well, if you know where to look, you'll find it. Today, Kahl has a population of 8,000, but in the middle of the 19th century it was less than 700. So when, in 1865, 34 people in Kahl and the neighbouring Welzheim died of diphtheria as part of a series of epidemics that swept through this part of Germany, it counts as a major disaster, especially since 21 of the victims were children. The innkeeper's wife and 2 of his children also fell ill, and with medical science nowhere near as advanced as it is today, there was little the family could do but pray. Those prayers, though, were answered, and every member of that family recovered. And so, out of a sense of profound gratitude, they built this chapel. It was originally in a fairly remote field, but of course now the village has grown to meet it. This part of Germany is full of little chapels and shrines just like this, and many of them are reminders of disaster and tragedy, whether they were built out of gratitude or in sorrow. But let's return to the station and take the next train to Aschaffenburg. The second city of the electorate of Mainz, it was hardly an impoverished backwater, but that doesn't mean it could escape the worst that history had to offer. From the main station building, turn right and walk down the corridor to the bus station. It seems an odd place to find history of any kind, but history can be found anywhere. What is now the bus station was originally built as a station for rail freight. And it's also right opposite the childhood home of an artist called Ernst Ludwig Kirchner. As he put it, he was born at the station, and trains were the first things he saw, and the first things he drew at the age of 3. But of course, at the height of the Nazi terror, this is where Jews were herded onto trains like cattle and transported to the infamous death camps.
Kirchner didn't witness this. He had emigrated to Switzerland in 1917. But in 1937, the Nazis declared his art degenerate, which basically meant it was banned. The following year, he was found dead of a gunshot wound. Whether it was suicide, and if so, exactly what motivated it, is not entirely clear. The monstrous excesses of the Third Reich are so well known and so big in scale that we sometimes forget all the smaller, personal tragedies that affected people who weren't what we might think of as typical targets. But this was a regime that set out to destroy everything it didn't understand, even art that it considered too modern or not German enough. And of course, the war that finally destroyed that regime came with a lot of collateral damage. Allied bombing raids made half the city's population homeless. Like so many other European cities, it was forced to rebuild. But rebuild it did.
And as we wrestle with our face masks, grumble about lockdown and wonder when this pandemic is ever going to end, there is, just this way, a reminder of a far worse event, one that decimated the population of Europe.
This is the Church of the Visitation, also called the Church of the White Lily, but most locals know it as the Sand Church. Its tower was originally part of the Sand Gate. The church that now stands here was built in 1756, but it commemorates the events of 1606. In that year, the plague hit a nearby village. Of its 400 inhabitants, over 300 died within a month. The survivors came here to a shrine with a pietà, which is a depiction of the Mother of Jesus mourning his death. As the plague continued to ravage the area, more people came here, hoping to escape the evil stalking the land.
See, the point I'm making is that we've been through times like this before, in fact, far worse. And somehow we've managed to come out the other end, and here we are. Alright, so sometimes the death toll has been horrendously high, and let's face it, I might not survive, well, to the end of the day, who knows? Although actually, if you're watching this video, I probably did. But even so, our societies continue, our nations continue, humanity continues. We are still here, and we, collectively, we will survive.